Hello YouTube, my name is Mark. This is Nixon Motorsports Garage. We're all about motorsports, from auto racing, exotic cars, simulators, and so on. Today's video, we're going to be installing a 2017 ZX10RR motor into the Formula 1000 race car. So follow along, we'll see how the steps go. So this is the motor itself. Now this is a 2017 ZX10RR motor. It's not my prime motor. My primary motor is a 2019 ZX10RR motor. Not a big difference between them, but there is. The 17 motor in the Gen 5 category, it's a decent motor. It's an RR, so it's the race-ready motor. Horsepower, it's plus or minus a couple horse. They're relatively close. The ZX10RR 19 and newer motors, which is my primary, as I said, has a few little bits, right? It has finger followers in the new head profile. So the head, the valve train assembly, a little lighter, allows for more RPMs. The connecting rods are actually out of titanium. So the motor itself, the 19 that is, revs to, I think, about 600 RPMs more. So it's in the 14,005, 14,006, thereabouts, versus the 17 all rev limit at around 14,1 in that category. Okay, so let's get to it. This motor is already dynoed. It's race ready. It will be adapted to the Motec and all the new electronics. The reason I'm putting the backup motor in is, if you can look at the car here, there's a lot of work to do this winter. And so I'm trying to speed things up by getting some of the basics of the car together. I'll go ahead and run this, this 17 motor this year. And then use the 19 that's at the engine builder now for all the Motec tuning and all those things that we're doing. Okay, so let's get to it. Let's get this motor in. Now I haven't had this motor in specifically with the new engine spar or mounting points in the rear, so hopefully there's no big challenges. We'll see, of course. Okay, first thing I'm going to have to get my small little oil line adapter mounted in here before I put the motor in place. So bolting that thing in. Sometimes they fight with you a little bit. By the way, it's pretty chilly out here in northern Texas. It's that time of year, right? So you never know weather-wise. Okay. Nope. Sometimes starting the threads on this can be ornery. There it goes. By the way, I use a dry sump oil system that's pretty trick. It's from BRD, and it's a two-port or two-stage, I think you call it, scavenge pump. It's driven off the the where the old water pump assembly was. Works quite well. Used these for years. Okay. So that looks good. I can go ahead and try to wiggle it in place. Just get the motor close. Then move it around by hand. Seems to be the way I've always done it in the past. Works pretty good. Okay, so there's my oil lines. Might as well get this guy buttoned up before I slide it in. So the oiling system, the dry sump oiling system, the external oil cooler itself is on the high pressure side, and the low pressure is simply returned to the tank. Works well. Okay. Tighten this guy up. Obviously, you got to make sure the lines are nice and tight, of course, here, right? Last thing you want is a oil leak. Not good. There's that. Get this other guy installed. Of course, I'm dripping oil. I hate that. Get everything nice and clean, then you drip some oil. Irritating, but not a big deal. Yeah, if I haven't mentioned that in the past, engine builder wise, I use George Dean, if I can say his name correctly. George is out of Washington. Very good motor builder. Primarily, if not exclusively, bike engines. So very reputable, highly recommended. So he's a good guy if you're a bike engine guy. And there's a few others out there. I've used Greg Moon in the past. He's decent. I didn't use Greg for tuning, but he's another one. But I've been using George now for the last few years. Very good guy. So I'm just tightening up this oil fitting before I slide the motor in. Same thing, you want to get it pretty snug, right? Last thing you want is a oil fire. That would not be cool. There we go. Okay. So that's good. Let's see. Yeah. Now I can go ahead and let it down a bit. Usually what I like to do is get the front mounts kind of aligned, get it relatively close that way. And then, you know, it's easy. The motor, you can move it around in here. Pretty easy once it's sitting down on itself. Which, that is about where it's at, I think. Yeah, so I think what I'll do next is try to get a couple of these front mounts just close, and then just get a ballpark, and then not too far in the process here. This is the rear end. I call it the Spar, but I'm not sure if you can see it from the video there, but this, maybe that will track, yeah. So this rear end, here's the oil tank itself, the Spar. That actually bolts up to the rear of the engine here, and to the frame, and to the chassis. So it actually is part engine mount, part chassis hard mount itself. That's where all the suspension, differential, the rest of the car goes. So we'll get to that here in a few minutes. I'm just eyeballing what I got here, and everything looks in order. My handy reading glasses, by the way. You'll see me with these on once in a while. Damn eyes, you know, when you get old, it's terrible. Okay, so I think this might actually go further forward a bit. I think it does, yeah. So let's go ahead and get one or two of these spacers and motor mounts up front. Oh yeah, this is that side, all right. And then we can wiggle it where we need to. Yeah, so I think I mentioned before in a previous video, the F1000 is a 1000cc engine with 1,000 pounds wet with minimum weight. So that's driver, fuel, everything, right? About 210, 212 some odd horsepower. A blast to drive, so fun cars. So today, I want to do a couple things. Obviously get the basic motor in the car, which we're doing now. Get the Spar in, basically bolt it up. And then I have a new set of headers from Voodoo that I want to see how they're going to fit in the car. And I'll talk about that when I get to it, but those are the goals today. So just basically snug those up. Okay. Looks pretty good. See any issues? Okay, at this point, we'll go ahead and get this off. Yeah, these, if you haven't seen these types of lifts before, these A-frame lifts, great. I've had this one for, God, I don't know how many years now. It's a portable lift. It used to trailer this thing everywhere. And you know, I picked the entire car up with this thing, and as you can see, motors and whatnot. But yeah, they work great. Okay, motor sitting in the car, which is fantastic. Okay. I think I'm going to shorten up. This is my my lead from the crankshaft ref sensor, so it seems a little long, not shielded. Probably clean that up a little bit. This is my starter power lead itself. Always kind of a good thing to have in the car, right? I'll get to that here in a minute. Let's see, I'm just eyeballing things here a little bit. Let's just see what it looks like. Let's see if they even fit. How's that? Okay. So, this is the new header that I'm going to attempt to use. I've been running, for the last 4 years, I've been running the Brock Sidewinder, 4 into 2 into 1. They work okay. The challenge I've had with them, well, fitting wise, I've had some challenge. So my first interest here is, do these fit in the car a little better? Okay. Performance, of course, is always there. But then the third is, I like to run the Nixon sheet covering, if you want to call it that, whatever it's called, for these headers that basically enclose the entire exhaust system in a Nixon wrap or cover. It's not the little tube wrap, it's the entire system. And works really well to keep thermal heat out of your engine bay, which is a performance thing, right? Problem with that is they, when you do that, the heat and stress on your headers, your exhaust system is very, very high. And so it depends on the material they're made of, it depends on their wall thickness and kind of all the stuff for durability. So anyway, the Brock's headers, they'll work fine by themselves. When I wrap them with the Nixon products, they didn't last that long, maybe 2-3 races, 4 races in that range. So I'm hoping that fitting first, this works well. If not, I'll stay with the Brock's. My third option is I'll have a set of custom headers made. And the only reason I would do that is, one, if fitting is still an issue with these. And you know, a custom set of headers, though they'd be expensive, I could have headers made out of material that would last with the Nixon covering. So we'll see. But let's just see how these fit, just for grins. Actually, looks quite nice. If you can see this, I think they'll do a good job. It's not bolted up. You know, maybe I should do that with one or two of the tubes, but man, that looks like it's going to do a pretty good job. If it clears, see, I have a clearance issue down here. If you can see low enough, if I can get down here, I have some clearance issues around the chassis itself, and this actually might do it. So let's see here. That's going to fit. Okay. Pull those off here in a bit. Okay. So that gives a good view that the headers are going to work well. So that's actually very, very cool. Nice. Okay. I'm going to see, I don't know if you can track me or not. I'm going to go over here and grab one of my NOx sensors. In the intro original video that I did, I talked about how this year with the big build that I'm doing, you know, converting electronics and everything else, that wanted to go with NOx sensors on the engine. And the reason is multiple things. With NOx sensors, it gives you just another level of protection. It doesn't give you more performance, right? But when you run an engine in extreme conditions with high ambient temperature, high water temperatures, you know, you're really pushing the motor hard. Your ECU needs to understand and take corrective actions, and you're trying to avoid detonation, of course, right? Or knock. The theory is, you know, by adding at least one NOx sensor to the engine, we can listen to early stages of knock much easier and actually more accurately than just air temp, ambient air temp, and water temp, and that type of thing. Okay. So what I'm wondering is where I might be able to mount this, and I actually see an opportunity here that might work. Okay, so we got the engine in the chassis, right? Just 2 bolts at the moment, just kind of positioned it, you know, and as you saw, you know, checking the basic fitting of the new Voodoo headers, so kind of cool. Threw on the throttle bodies, they're just sitting there. Again, we'll have to take some of these parts off as I'm going through some of the fitting items here. I think what we'll do now is I'll move towards the spar down here, and again, I don't think you can see it, but you will in a second. I'll pull this thing up, focus on getting this fitted in the car, and bear with me because this will be a little fun. But I think this is a good step next, and just do a little bit of cleanup here real quick. So for this, we'll use the handy dandy A-frame hoist. This actually works quite well. Got a little more. Yeah, that's kind of hokey, but I think it'll work. Maybe. Okay, so maybe you can see this now. This is what I call the spar. And now it's just a matter of trying to get it fitted. You can see it flopping over in the side here. Like I said, that's just because I don't have the rotor and everything on this driver's left side. That's all. Okay. Now I got to be careful. In fact, I'm going to get my super duper glasses here so I can see. You have a fitting, you know, that oil line that I showed you. I have to mate this with the bottom of the tank. And I'm going to go underneath, see if I can see that better. Get this out of the way. Okay. So today we got the engine in the car. This is again the 2017 ZX10RR. This is my my backup or spare motor. Good engine. It's just not the Gen 6, the 2019 and newer. Got the Spar. That's what I call this, mounted in the car. So this is the rear half of the car. Haven't put the differential in yet. The axles are out, need to be cleaned. This side's completely apart where I'm standing. And this is where the rear wing assembly and such, all this bolts up back here. But this was a good step today. At least I can start working on some of the wiring, getting that laid out. Got the Voodoo headers installed, which fit actually quite well. There's a couple little clearance items that I'm going to have to work on, but that's not too abnormal. Pretty decent fit. So I'll clean those up, make my adjustments on the headers that's needed for the rest of the exhaust, and then make sure that's all fitted well, and I'll send those out to Thermal Advanced to get all the you know, the thermal coating or the blankets made for this. And if you're curious, let me show you. So here's a set of old headers that I've ran before. I'm not sure if you can see these, but these are a set of 4 into 2 into 1. These are a set of Brock's headers, and these are the heat shields that I have made out of Nixon. Very cool. They actually enclose your entire exhaust together. Takes out a ton of heat in your engine bay. It's really hard on your headers, right? If the headers are not capable of handling that type of heat, it will destroy them relatively fast. You know, as I said earlier, if you heard, you know, within, for me at least, maybe 3-4 races. So that's it today. Next up, when I get back out here, I'll probably throw the diff in here, the differential, button up the rear end a little more, maybe get the wing on, some of the basics, but not too much further than this. The focus and energy will be on starting the wiring. And I have to get the ECU wiring, engine wiring, all that wrapped up in defines, ready for dyno, of course, right? So that's it today. Thanks for joining. See ya.